Let's get this party started.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to see everybody here tonight. I don't have any formal introduction. I'm just going to hand over to who I'm so happy to have on the team for Club Growth, Sarah Ranchler as Club Coach Chair. And she has taken the bull by the horns and is moving us into a whole coaching program for District 2. I give you Sarah.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's been such a joy to work with you and with our presenter tonight, Jim Heeren, to develop or begin to develop what we have is of a series of co-action coaching sessions through the end of 2021. I know you're all wanting to Google co-action, and you've all admitted to me that you've already done that, possibly. But if you haven't, this is the definition of co-action. It's the action or process of working together in cooperation. You see this a lot in biology, where organisms work together coactionally to create crazy, amazing things. For an example, like a beehive, all of the members of the colony work coactionally to create their existence, and they all depend on each other. And it really does align well with what Toastmasters club coaches need, is they need a team. And so Linda and I are working together to create a team of coaches that we will all work together through my term and beyond, because the coaching term is 2 years, to support each other on this journey of coaching a club. So with that, I have an icebreaker question. And since all of you now know what coaction means, and we have enough time and a small amount of participants, we can all kind of go around and say your name, your Toastmasters title, or whatever title you prefer to say, how long you've been a Toastmaster, and then tell us about a time you worked coactionally. And I can start. My name is Sarah Ranchler, and I'm an LD1, but I haven't actually processed all my manuals. So maybe in a few days, I'll jump up in the ranks. I've been a Toastmaster since 2016, and I work coactionally all the time when I think about it, but creating this idea of our coaction coaching series was developed coactionally and sort of organically by meeting at length, really, with Jim and Linda. And I think that's really the way that you can tell that you've got something great, is when you can organically work together and it just seems seamless. So I really appreciate Linda and Jim for being my coaction example of the day. Who wants to go first? I'm going to call on people.
Jim will go.
Okay, Jim.
Hi there, I'm Jim Heeren. I'm going to present the club coaching presentation this evening. I have worked coaction and I can't even say it, let alone understand it, coactionally many times. And most recently, I was on the international director campaign for Rosie Reyna, who ran for Region 11. And after our group was such a great group, and unfortunately, Rosie came up a little short, and the group has been kind of quiet on our WhatsApp. But today we broke the ice and we're all chatting again. So the band is getting back together. just because we love each other as Toastmasters. Is there another question?
No, I love that. That's it.
Okay.
I'll give you a longer introduction later. Don't worry. Heeren, would you like to tell us about your co-action?
Sure. So my name's Karen Lazan, and I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years now. In October, it'll be 10 years. I can't believe it's been that long. And as far as title, I was a Pathways trainer, I still am, and I just love Pathways, and so I've been working through my Pathways. I think I've gotten up to a level 4, but I've helped a lot of people get beyond that and just start. And
Nice.
and so working coactionally, I think that working in Toastmasters, you basically have to do that. I mean, you're in the executive committee, and if you want your club to thrive, all of the officers are working together to get more members and to make sure the members are happy and to have a really fun evening.
Exactly. I love that. Thank you, Karen. Linda or Bob? Bob wants to go. Great. You're on mute though.
Okay. It didn't want me to speak.
It wants you.
I've been a Toastmaster since 2013, so 8 years. I have, I was one of the ones anticipating and chomping at the bit for Pathways, and I'm on my 4th path right now. One of my earliest Toastmaster coaction activities was when I was in 2017. I was first an area director. I'd been club officer before, but I was an area director, and I did a couple things that fall. One, I did my HPL to put on the chair the area the Division A contest. But before that, as part of my duties as the area director, I worked with James Harmon and Tommy Price to put on a triple area, the area 14, 15, 16 speech contest, which went very well. I basically said, okay, Tommy, you're doing this. James, you're doing this. I'm doing this. And it went splendidly, even though 2 weeks before the contest, we lost our venue and had to scramble and get it. Some misunderstanding on the point of the venue, but it went very well. And I've done more contests from that. Last year, I had the experience of being the District 2 chief judge. So I was working with a lot of people all over the district. So that's been my experience of working together with people.
That is awesome. And it's all Toastmasters based, which is great. I think we have time for maybe one more. Linda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Linda Warthman, District 2 Club Growth Director. And I think of 2 things in my past when I love collaborating. I'm a big collaborator. I was the president of a user group for computers, a computer user group, way back when we used to have to talk about how to use our computers because it wasn't common in our society. So we had 300 people all getting together, and I'd bring in big presenters like Microsoft and Adobe, and they'd have these big things, and we'd have a conference once a year, and that was great fun. And then also I worked at the Evergreen State College for a number of years, and the day after graduation we'd have a huge party. We'd have all food vendors and stages with music. We'd have 20,000 people converge on the campus And that was a big, big undertaking with a huge committee. And it was all volunteer. Yes, I worked there, but I had to do it on my own time. So yeah, those are my two co-action examples. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Linda. I would love to see some pictures of these events, maybe later on the side. If you'd like to put your answer to the icebreaker question in the chat, since we're just trying to stay on time and I want to respect all of your time, feel free to do so. But the real meat of why we're here is because the district has offered us a stretch goal for coaches, which is kind of a special deal this year, where if you help a club get distinguished or better and get 20 people in the club by next June, then you receive a district leader credit and you can still compete in club contests, so speech contests, which is the big reason why a lot of people don't want to sign up for district leadership. And we need really experienced Toastmasters as club coaches. So if you are or know somebody, who fits this bill, we just need to get you paired with a club by the end of the year. And so that's why we have sessions set up, one a month. This is our September session. And then we will have sessions coming in, they're the second Mondays. The same time frame will start at 6:35 and go till 8 p.m. Pacific time, October 11th, November 8th, and December 13th. And these are already on the district calendar, so you can go and register right now if you're excited about it, like I am. Then just register. But look for us in the Starburst because we'll be promoting these sessions too. And you can also spam my email, which I'll put in the chat again for everyone. But with that, I am just more excited to introduce our presenter today, Jim Heeren, who is a DTM who moved to Birch Bay, Washington in December 2019. And he has 39 years of Toastmasters experience. There are so many accolades here for Jim. I'm just going to read a few, okay? He served as District 45 governor and a Region 7 advisor in 2011 to 2012. That's what the acronym PRA is after Jim's name. He has received President's Citation in 2016 from Jim, I don't know how to pronounce this, Kokaki DTM PIP in Washington, D.C. I'm sure there's a big story there too. Jim is serving as the VP of PR for Northwest Advanced Speakers and Seattle 10 International during the 21-22 program year, in addition to being here tonight. Welcome, Jim Heeren.
Thank you, Sarah. Wow, it is so much fun to sort of revisit this presentation that I have been presenting for years. And let me tell you, things have changed since the early 2000s. And I've done quite a few updates that I'm going to share with you in this presentation tonight. So now I'm going to share my screen. Because I'm an old PowerPointer, but there's a ton of information to share with you. Tonight's presentation is how to be a great club coach. And a lot of people who start down the path of how to be a club coach is they don't really know how to go about doing it. And so in this presentation, I like to show some of the basics and to give you some ideas how to create a plan so that you can be successful in your role as club coach quicker rather than later in that term of office, that you can actually spend almost 2 years as a club coach with a given club, depending on when you start. Does everyone see the shared screen? Wow, I'm very happy. All right, tonight's agenda. First of all, there's going to be an overview of what coaching is about. Then we're going to get into developing a 3-month plan. There'll be a breakout session so that you can interact with each other, although we'll probably stay in the same room and work on these lists ourselves. Then the 3-month plan has month 1 activities, month 2, month 3, and then we're finishing it off where you can show your leadership while you're a club coach. I'd like to start off with the club mission. And the reason I like to start off with the club mission is because this is where we want the club to be successful, that it is a supportive and positive learning experience in which the members are empowered to develop their communication and leadership skills, to develop self-confidence and personal growth. And small clubs that have hardly any members, this doesn't really happen. But when you work as a club coach to make this happen, look what else happens. You begin to satisfy the Toastmaster International mission, which is to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. You satisfy the district mission, which is ever so important to Linda Warthman and the trio, but in the whole district as well, building new clubs and supporting all clubs to achieve excellence. And then finally, we all like to stick to the international values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And that's where we want to be. And then when this all comes together, Toastmasters can achieve their envisioned future. That is, to be the first choice provider of dynamic, high value, experiential communication and leadership skills development. And when you're done with your club coaching and you have a chance to instill values that build the clubs and make them fun again, and then all the members start following the Toastmasters promise, then you've got a quality club that's been built again, and that you've done your job, because you've not only got a quality club going, you've got the membership building. So in order to build a club from where it currently is, you have resources right from the start. The first resources are the club members itself, in that working with them and showing them the way is how they're a huge resource, because you can't do all the work yourself. You're not expected to. Finally, there's the area director, and for the club coach in the bottom right-hand corner. What the area directors can do is plan on visiting low membership clubs more often. And if you get your area directors to hold council meetings, that is an opportunity on a monthly basis to instill values in the leadership of the people that attend, to strengthen the area as a whole, as you share stories and provide advice on how they can overcome the problems they have in their clubs. And finally, the area director can coach clubs to having better meetings and promoting their club. But when there's the bigger challenge, that's when the club coach comes. And the club coach is actually appointed by the district director or club growth director. They're best to be an experienced Toastmaster, someone who's experienced success in a club. A club where people smile, a club where people have fun, a club where, well, my goodness, last night I can tell you that in my Key Speakers Club, our theme was fantasies, and our table topic master came dressed as an instructor at Hogwarts and gave us appropriate fantasy questions. It's when that sort of magic happens, that's when a club is having fun, the club grows. Your term of office, we spoke about that briefly before. And oh, yes, you can't force yourself on a club. The club actually wants to improve. And in fact, if for some reason a club had said, yes, we'll take a club coach, but they don't really want to commit themselves after you've tried really hard, well, it's better to move on and find a club that's willing to work with you. So the club has to welcome the assistance. That's very important. So when you come in as a club coach, what are your skills? What are your abilities? What are your qualities that you should have? I mean, this young woman is the perfect picture of a club coach. Now, I'd like you to jump in and throw out your ideas of what skills, abilities, and qualities a club coach should have.
Just unmute and go. I think they should be enthusiastic.
Absolutely. Enthusiasm is so important. There's a time when I was area director, long time ago. I would go up to Laconia, New Hampshire, and Ernie would have a cheer at the start of every club meeting where he'd yell out, enthusiasm, enthusiasm, enthusiasm. And that is what that club thrived on. So what else does the club coach applicant, what should they have? Go ahead, Bob.
You need to be a good listener because you need to find out what's happened in the club and what their struggles are in order to help them overcome those.
Absolutely. Listening is key. In fact, the time when you start talking more than you're listening, you're going to find yourself getting in trouble, without a doubt. Someone else.
A desire to help people.
Oh, yes. That keen interest in helping other Toastmasters is very important. In fact, it actually turns you on. It's like, if you've been through a club coaching process when you're successful and the club is back to snuff, that is the rewards of club coach. Forget about, the pin, forget about everything else. It's actually seeing the happy club. And that interest helps fuel you to do a great job. So let's move on, because those are many of the qualities that I include. So next step is, how do you introduce a coach to the club? It's best the club coach just doesn't show up. It's, first of all, they're welcomed in. So the club knows you're coming, and that right from the start, the role of the club coach is explained to the club and their expectations can be set. And this can be set at an executive meeting before the coach comes to the club, or for instance, an area director can introduce the club coach and do that. And so that's what's very important, that they're introduced properly and the club understands what it's all about. Then finally, in that first exposure, I think it's important that the club coach gives their testimonial speech of how Toastmasters has helped them. And that testimonial speech can come from different times that you've been a Toastmaster. For me, the most impressionable times was in my first club in Kenya Kwanzaa Toastmasters in Nairobi back in 1982. I was assigned to the Nairobi office of American International Group, and my general manager invited me out to lunch that turned out to be a Toastmaster club. I learned that even though I had a college education, even though I had taken master's degree courses and had an MBA, I also learned I could not speak anywhere near as well as Wes Carroll could, who was the general manager that invited me to the meeting. In fact, the members of the club that didn't have many of the advantages that I had could speak better than I did. You see, I was one of those people that would write long notes and then read the notes when I was speaking in front of groups. And I realized after giving a few speeches in that club that I had a long way to go. And that after about 6 months of presenting speeches, the butterflies started to relax, the need for the notes began to relax, and things got better. And that is what Toastmasters does. It makes the butterflies go away, and it allows you to enjoy speaking in front of people. The second testimonial speech that I like to give is when I was area director. I was kind of thrust into the position suddenly. In fact, I had purposely avoided the big leadership positions in the club I was in. And at this point, I was in Concord, New Hampshire, in the Concord Toastmasters, a club that's still going strong today. And so I agreed to be an officer. And I said, can I make up an officer position? I'd like to be the club historian. And I kept the agendas from every meeting for the first year. And the next year, I stepped it up to club treasurer. Then at the end of that second year, Fay Plowman, the area governor back in those days, sat next to me at our breakfast meeting at Concord Toastmasters. And she was actually a little bit nervous that she hadn't found her replacement yet. And she looked over at me and said, Jim, I think you'd make an excellent area director. Well, it turned out to be a step up in my speaking because I held the area, division, and district officers in such high regard. I said to myself, I have to speak just as well as they do. And so I better step up my game. And that motivation suddenly made me all of a sudden feel that I had the power of public speaking. So these are the two stories where leadership responsibility and getting involved in Toastmasters made a big difference in my life. And so think of those times that you had a big change in your life or you saw a change in someone else. Those are the parts that you can use in a testimonial speech to develop an emotional reaction from the club, and that they begin to value their membership more because they want that too. So you begin to attend meetings in club executive meetings, and you exhibit skills. Now, I chose the Pathways paths just to show how Pathways develops competencies for the club coach, whether it's presentation mastery or planning or coaching or motivation or developing strategies or collaboration. All of our paths are developing competencies that will help you as a club coach. And of course, you're probably working on one or two paths, except Bob is working on 4 at the same time, and he's completed 4 probably, right? So That's the point of this slide, is that the educational program develops the skills that you need as a club coach. And then once you've learned the skills, it's important to put them to use. And club coaching is one of the best ways to put the wide variety of skills to use. So, with that in mind, you need a plan. You've met the club, you've given your testimonial speech, you have to get down to work. And these are the main steps that we're going to discuss. And I say a 3-month plan. A 3-month plan works if engagement of the club is high. It works if the club meets every week. You can't expect a 3-month turnaround in a club that meets once a month or twice a month. So, but I like to say 3 months. Why? Because a lot of people say club coach is so hard. And I like to say that if you know the skills to make it happen sooner, then get it done in 3 months and then move on to another club because you had so much fun. But it takes 6 months. That's still pretty cool. So anyway, these are the steps, and we're going to go through those one by one. So now I want everyone to step back a little bit and think of their experience. And we have very few people here, so we're not going to have a breakout session. But let's think of that we're going to create 2 lists, and we're going to focus first on successful clubs. So just shout out some of the characteristics of successful clubs.
Ability to fulfill vacant roles easily.
The people ready to jump in the roles in a normal club meeting and willing to volunteer before the club meeting. Who's next?
Regular speakers, ability to fill speaking spots.
Absolutely. Having a good program is essential. The worst thing that can happen is when you go in as a club coach and the meeting starts off and they say, well, who's ready to give a speech tonight? And people say, I could speak, I guess. So that's big problems. What else? What is another characteristic of a successful club?
I'd say just organization and having information easily accessible for people in a variety of ways, because certain people prefer information in email versus reading it on Facebook, so basically being as organized as you can and as inclusive as you can.
A lot of Toastmasters don't like to read too. It's important people read their email. What about the officers? What do you see in officers relating to successful clubs?
Regularly communicating with their members, putting out agendas, addressing membership issues, answering questions.
That's very good. I also believe that having a club executive committee meeting monthly is very important for the club to discuss amongst the officers what's going on and to set some strategies for moving the club forward. How about training?
I was just going to say that a good club, a healthy club, usually their officers get trained twice a year.
See, if I was moving to a new area like Birch Bay, like I did, I would actually want to go to see the club performance and see what their membership numbers are, how many education completions they've had, and if I can find it, how many officers have been trained during club officer training. And if a club sends only 4 because that checks their box, that's not as impressive as a club culture that sends all 7 twice a year. And even the most successful clubs, they may have numbers of DTMs who have done the rules before, but they agree to take part in the training because it's a good practice. So these are some of the criteria of successful clubs. How about struggling clubs? What would be a characteristic of a struggling club? And it's kind of the opposite of this, and we talked about it a little.
Organization and not being timely. Get there, it starts late, it may end early.
And they're very casual, not using the Toastmasters format, not sticking to a time schedule and an agenda and having all the elements of a Toastmasters meeting.
Desperately low membership.
Desperately low membership, for sure. So there's lots of frowns. Struggling clubs frown a lot. In fact, there's people that are willing to throw in the towel. So here's my characteristics of successful clubs. And one is, how often are they distinguished? Do they have a track record of being distinguished? Officers training, members and officers are committed. We talked about that. The club executive meets monthly. Guests are welcomed and recognized at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. There's a published agenda. Social media is current. And the club is friendly. It's fun. And the people that attend know there's no better place to develop communication and leadership skills. And that is key, that it's a great experience and it's a learning experience too. So the struggling clubs: low membership, low attendance at TLI COT, incomplete agendas, unfulfilled commitments, educational completions. You look at the performance report at the end of the year and they might have 2. I'm saying with pathways, we should see 2 level completions a year by member. I just think so. Social club website, Facebook and Meetup is up to date, and there's lots of energy in the club. So the club assessment. It's your job to take a look at what are they strong at and what are they weak at. And so what we just talked about, those characteristics will trigger your thoughts. You have guides to use, which is the moments of truth or the club coach troubleshooting guide to help you determine club weaknesses. You might want to ask yourself, why should this club be saved? Yourself. But that question should be also asked to the officers. Why should we save your club? What's important to it, to you? What's your why? What would you like to get out of it? What would be your perfect club? So when you're thinking of the club, who's the club going to appeal to? So it may be a corporate club. So if you're a Tableau like Sarah, it's obviously going to be Tableau employees. If the club is a smattering of young people and retired people, well, you can draw from both populations. But if it's mainly a younger club, the club would be appealing to younger Toastmasters. The idea is every club has its character and its personality. The Key Speakers Club I'm a member of has a number of early career people. It includes about 2 or 3 retirees. It includes some mid-career people. We are an amazing diversified group with people that originally came from Sweden and Peru and Colombia. And it's just amazing the different places everyone's come from. And so we even had a visitor last night from Mexico that sent a message and said, I'd like to see what your club is like. And so Jesus came from Mexico, in Monterrey, Mexico last night. And he felt actually comfortable because Luis and Alvaro speak his language, even though they're from Chile and Colombia. But yet, nonetheless, there were many native speakers in the club too. So every club has its character. And so think about what the club profile is, because you can direct your future publicity to the demographic based on ages, occupations, and whatnot. So be looking at where you go from early on after you start helping them out. So next, these are copies of the Moments of Truth and the Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide. Both are very good, and you work on those. And ultimately, the priority things to work on would be programming. That is to say, start, if you have to, creating a culture shift so that a schedule is prepared 10 days before a club meeting or a week before the club meeting, enough time for people to be prepared, in that you're working that to make the club meetings timely, that they have an agenda, that they welcome their guests, that they respect each other's time. In other words, build in the quality aspects to the club. It may not be easy to share your results of a Moments of Truth. And that's why I said work on club planning and work on execution, and you don't want to dump on the club 18 things to fix. Okay? What we want to work on is 2 or 3 things to fix, and then otherwise people will get depressed. And so you solve the problems with 2 or 3 things, and then you can move and improve the next group of things that you observed. There's also a guide, Master Your Meetings, which is available to download from Toastmasters. It's a good resource. So now you're working with the club, you're fixing their meetings. How do you get people excited? Special theme meetings can be a way. What kind of theme meetings? You can invite the District 2 speech champion to speak at your meeting. You could even say, Heather, come speak at our meeting, Heather Watson. You invite a guest speaker and then promote it. Or you might get adventurous and you want to study the art of debate. And if you're doing debate, you might want to promote that within the Toastmaster community or within your community at large. Or say you're a corporation, and I included the military. The military does have Toastmasters clubs on their joint bases that you can invite a viewing of the World Championship of Public Speaking, in that you can invite the person that is kind of the sponsor of the club within the organization, whether that's the president or whether it's the leadership development, training, management, whatever it is, and that they can sample the best of Toastmasters by viewing a speech contest, or maybe one or two speeches. In that, in your conversations with your corporate sponsor, you can talk about the good things that are happening in the club. That you can also say, hey, we have some challenges. And those challenges, we wish we could get more people coming out in taking advantage of this good, solid education. And that maybe they will actually help promote the club and that employees will come. Now, the best example of this is back in Virginia. And I was the area director at the time of this area. And there was a special meeting where the vice president, something or other, from New York was coming down to Virginia. And he was such a big deal that when employees in the organization heard this muckety muck was coming to speak, they had more guests than they ever did. And it was a great opportunity for them to talk Toastmasters. And they, in fact, were able to get 8 new members from the executive visiting the club meeting at that time. So in month 1, or whatever your phase 1 is, we've worked to create quality meetings, and we are thinking of ways to make meeting programming more exciting. You're into month 2, and here is public relations activities. And that can be as simple as the club printing business cards, and club members hand the business cards out to people in the community or within the organization. It can be flyers that are posted in the areas where coffee is served within an organization. Maybe a little like kitchenette or something of that nature. Or you can provide a public service announcement in newspapers or radio that promote your club. And then today, social media is where a lot of it's at. And Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Meetup are all good ways to get the word out that your club exists and what it does. And what your club does is it helps people develop their communication skills, become more self-confident, and they can achieve more. And that's what you want to promote. Now, that's a picture of my old business card. Here's a current flyer that you can download from toastmasters.org. Or my little newspaper in Birch Bay is called The Northern Light. Comes out every single week. And they don't even say that they are the Birch Bay Blaine Toastmasters meeting anymore. They just say Toastmaster virtual meetings, 6:30 every Tuesday. And I'm sure they get regular stream of people curious what the Toastmaster Club is about. Because there's not that much to do in Birch Bay when the Canadian border is closed. You know, all that fun that us people in Birch Bay do going north to Canada, going to White Rock or going up to Vancouver is not happening. You know, it's Bellingham. You know, what are you going to do? So there's this is a great thing to do in Birch Bay and Blaine, is to take part in the Toastmaster Club. So 2 areas where I see a lot of activity going on in social media is Meetup and Facebook. Now, Meetup costs $14.99 a month. And you might say, that's pretty expensive. But Meetup does something interesting, and that is when you are paying $14.99 a month as a club or a group or whatever it is that you're doing, you're putting down the characteristics of what people that you're trying to attract would be interested in. And so you would say public speaking, leadership, things like of that nature. And so Meetup, when someone becomes a member of Meetup, they put down what they're looking for. And so Meetup does the matchmaking between people looking for public speaking and organizations that provide public speaking. And that's where the benefit comes in. And believe me, I used to say that the little announcements in newspapers would bring about 2 people a month to our club back in Virginia. But Meetup brings about 2 people a month to our club in the one I'm speaking of specifically is my club in Vancouver called Key Speakers. Now, Facebook works a little differently, and that is the club creates a group page. And the group page is where the club puts announcements or news articles. If you find a article on public speaking, you can post that. And so what you post those things. In fact, my grand idea this year is going to be preview videos of speakers, and then have the members of the club share their Facebook page of that announcement. And so all the people that are in your Facebook group will see this shared information. And so that's a way that the group page for a club can get a wider reach. Here's the Key Speakers Meetup page. It's a picture of us and what we're all about. Here's Northeast Seattle Toastmasters Club Meetup page. Here's Kent Evening Toastmasters. Then Facebook, Rise and Shine Seattle Sunrisers, has a group in Facebook. And so they're tapping into Facebook for promoting. And then the websites. Everyone knows to have a website today. And Free Toast is a pretty easy to set up website to have. Although many Europeans have tapped into Easy Speak because it has some different functionality. Google has ways of creating websites, and WordPress actually has a template that for Toastmasters. So there's many ways to create websites for your club. And here's Seattle 10, the happy past district directors of District 2, having a great old time. Now, there's one club in my sort of review of clubs that I recommend that you should just check them out to see how smart they are to promote themselves. I've never seen anything like the Unicorn Tribe Toastmasters Club. They started in late 2019. They started with 20. There are over 30 members today. They do everything pretty amazing. Now, part of it is they have a past international director and Margaret Page as members, and that seems to be a bit of a drawing card, but it goes beyond that, in that they have a website and they've used every channel of social media that I'm familiar with. So they frequently will show their Zoom backgrounds and includes information, a uniform background for their club members. They have theme meetings, and recently they had What is My Dream Career? This is their Instagram post. They had 2 different variations of that. Then they have a Facebook group page that they continued to theme on their Facebook page on what is your dream career. And then they had their Twitter page. They also had the same consistent theme. And Meetup, they did not, but they have a Meetup presence as well. I'm impressed that they go to such great lengths to promote themselves. Now, you're fixing a club, and these are high goals to be reaching for. But the idea is to promote this club that you're working with to make them better. And these are all ideas that they can work on. And just imagine, there might be some techies in a company in Seattle that have skills. And they might, I mean, if you take a look, the web design of the Unicorn Tribe, they've used HTML cascading style sheets. Now, I never learned HTML. I never learned cascading style sheets. But it doesn't look like they use WordPress, but one of their members did this work. And so there might be some techies that want to go beyond free toast hosts and do something cool. And if you can say, hey, look at Unicorn Tribe Toastmasters, why don't you make ours better? Just an idea. Other ways to promote Toastmasters in your community can be things like, I've seen people actually, egotistic district directors have actually created billboards with their picture on it. That just blew me away. You can offer speechcraft, club business cards. You can wear your Toastmasters pin in the office. There are many things you can do in libraries. You can take out the public speaking books and put a brochure for your club in the public speaking book. Someone picks up the public speaking book, they see there's a resource, they can go join. And so that has worked and has worked in places I've lived before in New Hampshire and Virginia. So this is just a number of ways to promote yourselves. Then if you really want to be outrageous, you do guerrilla marketing. Now, guerrilla marketing is different things like a flash mob promoting your club in the streets at lunchtime in a busy place. That is actually something we did in Alexandria. We actually got the division director to wear a sandwich sign promoting the clubs of the area around this metro station. And the area directors circulated the people going into the metro and begged them to take our flyers because, like any good city person, they want to avoid personal contact at all costs. But it was a heck of a lot of fun. And so that's something you can do. It might be expensive to pay it forward. That is to say, you buy someone's movie tickets and make them take a brochure, but you can do that. Those are another way to promote your club. It may work, it may not. Resources, let the world know. Let the world know is downloadable as the publicity and promotion handbook. It contains those lists of how to promote Toastmasters in the community and membership growth as ways to build the clubs. So now we are now going to venture into the right way to put on an open house. You see, we have gotten the club meetings to be successful. They're running like a charm. They're a quality product. It's what becomes attractive. We've prepared some publicity through all those means I showed you. In fact, I sort of went over this presentation briefly with some Toastmasters, and they said, hey, this is not club coaching. This is more of VPPR. And I said, well, yeah, it is. But anyway, so holding an open house, there's practices for doing a good open house. And I'd like you to participate again with your ideas of what it takes to put on a good open house.
Entice people with food.
Food is magic. Absolutely. Whether it's pizza in soda in at a corporate office, or maybe wine and beer if it's at a community center, if it's allowed. That is a big deal. What else?
Recruit good speakers.
What's that
Highlighted
again?
speakers. Recruit highlighted speakers. Notable speakers.
You can recruit notable speakers, absolutely. You know, there's bound to be area directors and other people as well to come to the open house for sure. What else?
Marketing material, brochures, something.
That is huge. You see, I've been to so many open houses that was executed perfectly using district money with excellent food. The table was set, the agendas were there, and we had 2 guests. And so the promotion is so important. And one of the best ways, you know, I didn't discuss this before in promoting it, but the idea of using Facebook groups and then sharing the post is an excellent way, because that you would prepare a poster of that special open house event and have everyone share it. But you can do it just by sending to your email contacts. Now, your email contacts may not appreciate your mail, but some of them might actually come. I mean, I think I've got thousands of email contacts over the years. And there's actually a past champion of public speaking, Lance Armstrong. Is it Armstrong? You don't know him. Anyway, he is in a very successful club in the LA area. And their main way to invite people to open houses is to send their flyers to their email people that they have on their email accounts. And actually, Lance ends up always winning with the most guests because he's a past world champion. It's a little unfair, and he gets special recognition every time. But that's how that club attracts new members. So another one.
I usually like to leave extra time to explain the rules, since you'll have people that have never been to a meeting before.
That's true. At the beginning of the meeting, you should explain the rules of the meeting, and that many times our open houses have fewer rules than a normal Toastmaster meeting. You'd have fewer speeches, but you would have speeches, you would have evaluations, and you would have table topics, and you would provide the opportunity to the guests to respond to table topics. And I have found that you can make your theme of the meeting Toastmasters. And so one speech can be, what has Toastmasters done for me? And another speech can be either an example from Pathways or something Toastmaster related. And then the evaluations demonstrate the evaluation criteria and the value of evaluations. And that's, you know, the execution of a demo meeting is to not only demonstrate a meeting, but also to sell. Now, earlier, I spoke of that meetings should be fun, friendly, and no better place to learn communication and leadership skills. It's a great learning experience. And so at the beginning of the meeting, if you're the Toastmaster, You welcome the guests. I'm so glad you're there. And you tell them, I'd like to make to you 3 promises. Those promises is that we're friendly. And I hope you found that we're friendly. We've greeted you when you've entered the room. We like to think we have a lot of fun during our meetings. And I hope at some point during the meeting, you're going to laugh and you're going to enjoy what you observe. And then hopefully by the end of the meeting, you'll agree with me that there's no better place for you to overcome your issues of self-confidence and learn public speaking and leadership skills. Those are my 3 promises. And I'll ask you at the end of the meeting if I've kept my promise. At the end of the meeting, thanking the guests for having been present, and you speak to each one individually, and you say, okay, I told you I was going to ask, were we fun? Were we friendly? And can you think of a better place to improve your communication skills? If they say, no, I can't think of a better place, then you say, I think you really need to be a Toastmaster and join us, and go right down the line. And I've done that before during a demo meeting, and I had 10 people join just by doing the fun, friendly, and no better place to learn public speaking. And so it's something to think of, but a good opening and closing line can help you get guests right away. And oh, by the way, if you put on a successful open house and you get 20 people sitting in chairs and you get half of them to become members, well, you might have 22 people in the club and game over. All you have to do is get the club to be distinguished. You've got the members in place and you've done it in 3 months. And that's how you do it in 3 months. So you promote to fill the seats. You have a guest package that's available to them that explains the meeting, that explains what Toastmasters can do, refreshments, that you use Toastmaster themes, include a question and answer, and you socialize with the guests at the end of the meeting. That is how to put on the great open house that can win over people to join your club. So here's a longer description about fun, friendly, and now there can be other types of things you do in that 3rd month, and one is a relationship visit. So it's a corporate club. They're very small, and I think I spoke of this earlier, but you arrange to get a high-ranking Toastmaster representative to speak to the corporation, whoever the sponsor is, and that this actually happens twice a year, just as if we were a vendor of services to the organization. Now, we don't let the club fester in the corporation, that we actually provide a little support, and that we bring a story when we speak to that high-ranking official about some other aspect of the Toastmaster program they were not aware. And you work your conversation that, is there anything we can do to get more interest of people to join the club? Because it does provide such a great opportunity for your employees, and see if that corporate sponsor can help attract some members to the club. This is something you can take with you, the features, benefits, and value graph is a great conversational item with a corporate sponsor. It talks about different aspects of what Toastmasters are, and it talks about the benefits and the value to the organization. And you don't have to review every single category, but it's hit 3 of them, and the point will be made. So another activity can be the finding and establishing partnerships. So what that means is there's other clubs in your community. There's women's church groups, there's men's church groups, there's Chamber of Commerce, there's Rotary clubs, of which we have our special relationship, and that the Rotary opportunity has almost an instant way for a club in a town with a Rotary club where no contact has been made yet to go and do a demonstration meeting at a Rotary Club meeting. And the Rotary Club members can know what Toastmasters can provide them. And at the same thing, the Rotary Club can promote what they're all about as well. And so that partnership of exchanging people would be a partnership. And potentially you can create within that club a community contact team, which goes out and looks for these opportunities and actually is armed with brochures and can even make cold calls to get your foot in the door, to show more about Toastmasters to that organization and attract members to your club. Of course, it could lead to a whole new club, but we're only looking for a few members to help your clubs out. Another activity, provide a surface to capture new members. Now, what that means is, for instance, Speechcraft. It could be any of the success programs, but Speechcraft is a very good one. And so you promote a public speaking course, you promote it through the library or promote it through a school, wherever you can find a location. And you can charge a fee for the Speechcraft. Now, the package that you are selling is the 6-week Speechcraft course and a 6-month membership in Toastmasters. And so part of their cost of the Speechcraft is actually going to be their new member fees to join the club. And so once the intense training takes place in the Speechcraft, then they're introduced to the club meeting where they can extend their skills in that their first 6 months is already paid for. So, what can you do to show your leadership within the club? You can facilitate the moments of truth. You could present sessions to improve club meetings. You can participate in all the activities of the club. You can recruit another Toastmaster to present a Speechcraft. These are the many things you can do to show your initiative to help rebuild that club. So the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to take on a club coach? But maybe you need some additional training, and Sarah has her monthly training that's going to take place. Or that big smiling guy, well, he could be your mentor or a club rescue buddy who will work with you in rebuilding the club. And then why not get your club coach and a HPL all in the same go? And then when you recruit your guidance committee, they can help you be successful with your club coaching. These are all things that can make this even more beneficial. There's other resources available, the How to Build a Toastmasters Club. And you've got your district support, both Sarah and Linda, to help you out. And I hope you've learned something about creating a plan and being successful in coaching a Toastmasters club back to health. Madam Toastmaster Sarah.
Thank you so much, Jim. I think at this point we can have a brief Q&A if there are questions for Jim before we wrap up. We have about 7 minutes left. So does anyone have any questions for Jim while we have him here?
I have a question.
Excellent.
So Jim, I love the presentation. Thank you. A lot of good information. I one time heard a presentation given by someone whose club, improved miraculously within a very short time. And one of the things that she mentioned was you do not have open houses. And what she meant by that is that every meeting should be an open house. And I was looking at your list for open house, and the only difference between, I think, what we ought to do for every club meeting and open house is the food. So I'm wondering if there's something a little bit more, and the theme. So the theme was the other thing that I thought was good, having the Toastmasters theme to explain even more. So the whole idea is to talk about Toastmasters in the open house. So I'm not sure I have a question in there, except if there's something else that would delineate an open house more from a regular meeting. But those two things is something that I picked up on.
So I understand where the person came from, that in fact you should always be inviting people. It becomes problematic because all my friends are Toastmasters, but that's kind of the challenge. But I find teams work well when they have kind of a shared goal and have a focus of a project. And so if you're focused on a project, that can get everyone revved up to work for that point, where what you do week to week would never be the energy that you would be putting into an open house. But definitely, I believe in passive publicity. So having the Meetup page or having the ad in the newspaper that's always there and always collecting people, that's really good. But the focused energy that people come together and work, I think that brings a lot of magic. And those rare times that you can, get 20 people in a room, and this happened at the U.S. Geological Survey, and we had 20 guests and 10 became members of a club that had 2 members left. It revitalized the club in one go. And I don't know, it's, it can be a choice, because all of this stuff is a choice. I presented lots of options and they're not all going to be right.
Yeah, and I definitely can relate to the idea that every meeting is an open house, because now that our meetings are so organized and all virtual, we do get a guest usually every time, or sometimes multiple guests every time. But the big difference for our club, that differentiates the open house, is I usually have somebody else planning it. So it's more of their project, like a VP of PR wants to do something, or a VP of marketing wants a project. And so it's like, all right, this is your special meeting, and you just go nuts with it. And I've had some really creative things come out of that, freedom to people who really want to try something new. Any other questions for Jim? Oh, go ahead, Karen.
I'll wait for someone else.
That's fine.
But
I
so-
love questions.
So this is for both for you, Sarah, and for Jim. And just, I am a little confused about the mechanics of how you actually become a club coach. I mean, Jim, you had a slide on it briefly, but so Sarah, you've got this grand plan, and I'd just love to hear more about the details, briefly.
Yeah.
How do I become a club coach? And and you were talking about a term of 2 years.
Yeah. So
that
I have 2
required-
minutes left, so might as well just do my ending spiel, which is going to answer these questions.
Okay.
So how do you become a club coach? Linda, will you share the survey link again? Linda is going to share a survey, and then that will provide me with your email address so I can follow up with you after this meeting and either sign you up as a potential club coach and get some more details on what kind of a club you're interested in coaching. Maybe you have a club in mind. Another idea is to swap clubs. So if somebody's in a struggling club with 11 people, another person's in a struggling club with 11 people, have them coach each other. So really, I just want to get more information from each one of you after this meeting, and then continue that in the next 3 meetings where we're building this team. And so once the team is built at the end of the year, that's sort of the cutoff to when you can get this extra district leader bonus potentially. We'll start meeting just together, not, broadcast to the district, and really get down to the nitty gritty for the 6 months that we have, January to June of 2022, just working together and giving you as much support as we can from the district level to get as many clubs as we can distinguished. Does that answer my sort of goal and where we're going here? Jim, did you have anything to add?
No, that was good. That was a good description.
I'd like to add the other side is premise. A club must request a coach. We can offer, but we don't assign a coach to a club. And the club must have 12 members or less, or they cannot have a club coach assigned. We can still offer them help, but they can't have an official club coach. So a little line there. But as we progress forward, Sarah wanted to have some people in her back pocket before she starts contacting clubs and saying, you do qualify, but if we don't have anybody to offer, it's sort of an empty offer. So, but we'll work with the clubs to ask them to request a coach.
We might even have like an open house where we invite the clubs that could potentially qualify. And we'll actually know more about that after the 30th, the renewal deadline, because even more clubs may qualify or clubs may not be qualified anymore. So we're sort of waiting for that 9/30 deadline to present this to the clubs as an option too. So we have a couple weeks to work together. But we are over time. So I want to respect everyone's time.